right, so I'm going to ask again, what questions are on your mind that we'll get to before we close up today? What do you want to make sure we talk about?
Well, maybe I'll queue up what I'm going to talk about with my team after this. We're going
Great.
to talk about designed alliance and how to queue up a great designed alliance, and then do some practicing with that for the ensuing hour after this. So I don't know if you want to like do anything, but I don't have a question around that, but maybe there's something there to chat with
That I
about.
can, yeah, add in. So, let's see. So yeah, I'll definitely talk about designed alliance in the context of the starting a relationship. So, and then I'm sure there'll be more questions, and you can poke me to throw in my 2 cents, and any of y'all out there, just ask for what you want. What else is going out there? How about you, Michael? What do you got? What do you want to make sure we're talking about today?
Well, it's a timely topic, all about that clean entry and how to kick it off. It's something that is important because if we don't start off on that right foot, it goes off the rails right away, and it's hard to get it back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like it. I talk about clean entry in terms of how to begin a coaching call, just specifically a coaching call. But I like the idea of porting that clean entry into the very beginning of the relationship itself. That's great. All right. What else is going on here? Just doing a little tech check here. All right, cool. What else is going on in everybody's mind? What else do you want to make sure we talk about today? Good thing you're here. My normal crew, nobody showed up. I got a few emails from people saying they couldn't make it, but without you, it'd be me, Michael, and Kara, which is, we're cool and all, but you guys are
Well, I mean,
dwarfing our coolness.
Michael, I love that you brought up clean entry. That's a whole great topic that I think would be interesting for my team to hear about too. So,
okay, great. Great,
that'd
Nick.
be great.
All right. If I forget anything, Michael, you let me know, okay? We had a good chat about that a few weeks ago. So, all right, everybody, let's rock and roll. My wife is actually coaching someone right next to my printer. She's also a coach, and I did not print this out sooner. So I'd like to have this in my hand, but instead I'm going to be glancing off to the side, and you'll know why. So, all right. So I'm going to do a little bit of reading, a little riffing, a little back and forth with the camera, but I want to just cover a handful of things just content-wise so I don't miss some things and you guys get to hear it. Let me get through the content and just jot down anything you want to know that you want me to expand upon or anything. And then, for the first little bit, I don't know, this probably take 5-10 minutes for me to express. And then let's plan on just debriefing this for 10-15 minutes or however much ever long we need, how much ever time we need. And if there's not other questions that come popping up, then, well, I guess we've already taken that time. Then let's just plan on filling our time debriefing this, how to begin. Honestly, like Michael, like you said, it's a big deal, and doing that right really matters. And so, we could probably spend a couple of days talking about doing this well and what you might want to include or exclude from a session like this. So, all right. So yeah, let's dive in, talk about starting with new clients. The presumption is when we're talking about this, these are people that have already said they want to work with us. Now we've got people, for those of you who aren't from the gym, a lot of these folks have got, people who are coming because they're part of a gym and an overall personal growth atmosphere at a facility, but it doesn't matter. The idea is they come to you, they already know that they want to engage with you as a coach, not that they're interested or they'd like to talk to somebody, like they're in. So how do you begin? And I want to break it down to essentially there's 2 things we're going to consider. What's important in terms of logistical things that you got to do, right? We're always talking about doing and being, but things that you need to do and what you and the client want to walk away with at the end of the session. And to me, this is when my discovery sessions really got revolutionized, is because that became a primary thing. Is okay. So I started coaching. This is coaching probably been around since 92. I started coaching in like 96 or 5 or something like that. And it really hadn't been settled and refined a whole heck of a lot, because you could do things like a future self visualization. There were values. There was a myriad of resources. And, a lot of us were just trying to figure out what this coaching thing is and get going. And it wasn't always nice and tidy. And I was a big victim of my own self. I would do a discovery session and I would do values and life purpose and future self, and you're cramming all these resources into 2 hours, and I'd walk away dizzy. My clients would be overwhelmed, and then I'd get, canceled, weeks later. So you start diagnosing, all right, what's going on here? How did I get to this place? One of those things I realized was, okay, they're doing way, way, way too much, way too many so-called resources. And with those of you who I've mentored before, and I think the only two that I know intimately with Michael and Kara, and we've talked about this a bunch, is you really only need 2 or 3 really great, 1, 2, or 3 access points, really deep access points to your client's best self. You don't need, like I said, values and goals and future self and life purpose and captain and crew members and all like inner leader. And it's too much, because it's sort of like that expression, it's a mile wide, inch deep. And, actually, Michael, you've got the bay in your background there. If I'm not mistaken, it's like terribly deep. Well, guess what? It's incredibly deep. That means you can get some serious ships back in there. And whether it's a cruise ship or it's a barge bringing in supplies to the Bay Area, that's what you want. You want something that's really deep. And in our case, really connecting the client to themselves, the richest, deepest parts of themselves. That's what we're doing here. Coaching is about transformation, right? And so we don't need 14 different trinkets and resources and things that you can, oh yeah, that's good. No, you need to be able to utter a word. You need to be able to get in a posture. You need to be able to remember something to touch back into. Yeah, that's right. That is important to me. And all of a sudden, thoughts, physical sensations, how you move your body, emotions, intuitions, and urges, and all sorts of things begin to conspire and coalesce to help you to access this part of yourself that is resourceful. And that's really transformation. That's what we're after, is helping our clients be able to touch that quicker and more deeply. Okay. So as I'm talking about any of these things, or you're thinking about it and reflecting on it, like, that's what I want you thinking about, is not what are the 4,000 things I can include. The panting, by the way, is my dog, if you can hear her in the background. As you're thinking is, okay, what can I include? What resources might I use to help my client connect to themselves? What really turns you on? If doing the life purpose visualization, and we can talk about all these things if you want, what to know what they are specifically. If that turns you on, fantastic. If getting their goals and helping them connect to their goals is really big for you, then fantastic. Let's talk about how to do that well. But you don't need 1,000 resources. You need a couple that you can really lean into with your clients. Okay, so I'm going to reiterate that we need essentially we're considering 2 things: the logistical things and what do you want your client walking away with. It's the latter, what you want them walking away with, that drives the former. What do you want to do? What do you want to include in your session? So essentially, you want to get really clear about what your goals are for the session. Here's what they are for me, and you might be surprised at how astonishingly low it may seem the bar is. So I want to know what my client is up to. Right? Why are they even here? So what are the focus areas? Like, specifically, what are the goals? What are we even doing here? Why are we conversing? I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to make $1 million. I want to get closer to God. I want to find a new husband or wife. I want to, whatever. It's like, now we know what you're doing. Right? And we hold in mind that everything affects everything else. If you're working with somebody particularly on their fitness goals, guess what? Who are they going to have to become? The being drives the doing. And let that be your refrain. Who I am is going to create a menu of options, a different menu of options for me. And then I'm going to be able to act out of that from a place connected to myself. Right? So we're always coaching somebody towards being more disciplined, godly, generous, gentle, passionate, connected. The qualities go on and on. Okay. So I want to know what my client is up to. I want to be excited behind it. So if I'm coaching Kara and she's like, yeah, I'm starting this, Nazis for Christ. I'm like, whoa, I might not be the right coach for you, and of course I speak hyperbolically to make the point. But the idea is you might not be the best coach for everybody. And, in your environment, at the gym, it's like, look, Christian might be a better coach for you. He's really big into X, Y, Z. And I don't know, Nick, you guys can work out how that works, but, depending, and it's probably not going to show up in that environment as much, but if you find yourself doing coaching outside of that environment, if you find yourself coaching someone or queued up to coach someone that, oh man, at the end of the day, I cannot get behind, you got to always be able to pull that emergency switch and call it. But very rare in all these years I've been doing it. I mean, I think I'm about to make up once or twice, but in fact, I know it's had to have happened, but I can't even remember it. That's how infrequently over all these years. And so it's very rare. Okay. Relationships. So I want to know what the client's up to. I want to be excited to be behind it. And then I want to develop a relationship. So I want to have, Nick mentioned at the beginning, designed alliance, conscious relationship created. I want to have a sense of relationship with my client, the person I'm working with, that it's like, oh, wow, we're connected. We're ready to go. We're on the same page. This is going to be good. I want them walking away wanting more as well, So this becomes a good place for you to start to consider, okay, what is it that you would want to include in your, what's an outcome for you or outcomes for you for your initial sessions? And then you start to, back up out of there, what you would want to include. As I mentioned, you can do life purpose exercise. Actually, my wife brought this in because she's the best, but now it looks like it's harder than just looking at the screen. Maybe I'm revolutionizing my work here. Values. I do something called personal standards. I talked about that in the last video. If you've not seen it, I can refer you to the video for March. I can mention it in brief, but outside of that, I did a video. I've got a couple of videos of that on my YouTube channel. Do you want to teach them about the saboteur or the scammer or the gremlin or their demons, right? That voice that says, you know what? I joke in my book, I came to the party and I'm like, I'm not eating any dessert. And then Alexandra says, oh, Ron, did you hear it's Belgian chocolate cake? And I go, oh, I've never had Belgian chocolate. What the hell is that? I got to try that. And it's the next thing you know is I didn't do what I said because I'm listening to this voice. It's not so good. So do you want to educate your clients about that voice that says, I can't do that? And look you're all in the workout space. How many times you've gone like you've got your plateau in your mind? I can do 20 push-ups and you're banging away and you're unconscious. You're like 16, 17, 18. You get to 19. You're like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I can only do 20 push-ups. And all of a sudden like 19 becomes a struggle and you get up and then 20. And meanwhile, you were buzzing through 18. It's like, oh, there's something to be taught there to your clients, So these are some of the things you might want to include in your discovery session is, pointing out how your saboteur can run you, how your preconceived notions can run you. We're going to be addressing these things and, help your clients see that in themselves. Oh, yeah, I do know that. I've done that before working out. Right. So that's a great example of how your mind really can guide your, create your physical experience. So we're going to be working on that. We're going to be working with that. Okay. Let's see, what else? Yes, of course, consciously time to design your alliance, design your relationship, and share expectations. Here's how I really want this to go. What about you? All right. So not only do we want to, let me just throw a couple more things in here. I will keep saying forever and ever, the being drives the doing. Who we are drives what we do. And so what we're really wanting our clients to do is to become conscious of who they're being and how they're showing up at any given moment. And so when things are working, you want them to become conscious. Well, what does that mean? We throw words around. We don't even know what they mean. Conscious in my world it's about self-proximity, self-awareness. It's that, let's just say Aaron is coaching with me and he's like, man, I'm really ticked off today. This is going on and that's going on. I would say, okay, well, what's happening over there? What's going on inside your body? I want him to become conscious of, well, I'm feeling like this, like sick to my stomach feeling. I'm going to say, well, what other sensations? Oh, I'm feeling like a buzzing in my fingers. And, I'm going to point out you're kind of hunched over and you got this look on your face. I want him to become really conscious of what this experience is so that he can go, 3 days from now, he can be at the gym or whatever. And he's, feeling himself hunch over and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it right now. That consciousness equals the capacity, at least, maybe not it gets you in the doorway to be at choice. He might not have the power, right? New client, new self-awareness. He might not have the power to go, I choose to be, bolder and chipper and happy. I choose to be this way, but at least he's got that awareness and maybe he can break that state, that awareness. But on the other hand is, again, if I'm a good coach and we've also done some work, to help him come, do you really want to be this way, Aaron? No. How do you want to be? I want to be happy, Ron. I want to be engaged. I want to be, psyched up. Okay, great. So tell me more about that. Where do you notice that? We actually begin to create that experience? I do this a lot, like alignment. This is integration into my experience. Integrity. A man or a woman of integrity is consciously integrating those qualities in their lives. So he begins to do this conscious integration and noticing he feels this way emotionally and physically and how he's showing up. Right now we begin to have that choice because we've pulled these experiences apart. Okay. So I'm going to teach this in an initial session too. I'm going to be working with not just your mind. I love your mind. We've all heard people say, get out of your head. Don't tell people to get out of their heads, for crying out loud. Head is a good thing. Thoughts, it's intellect. It's a good thing. We just want to have drop into the rest of their experience. Okay. So that consciousness is where we now enter the door towards choice and what I would call freedom. So how do you need to show up for you as into your discovery sessions? Another consideration. Do you want to show up as a motivator? Do you want to show up confident? Do you want to show up really easygoing? Tons of space. You want to show up like a Sherpa, like, man, I've been there, done that. I know. Changing your eating patterns, changing your relationships, changing your the way that you engage your goal setting, your traveling, or your downtime. I know that's hard. Been there too, and I'm still working on it. None of us have ever arrived. Do you want to show up just kind of like a fellow traveler? So keep that in mind, consideration. Let's see. I'm a big fan of, being a normal dude, engaging with somebody just one-on-one. And how you see me now is how you're going to get me. If I was coaching you, it's going to be how you got me. If I was in front of a room of 3,000 people, it's how you're going to get me, sitting across just, in front of a fire, having a glass of, I'm a cheap date. I like seltzer water, a glass of seltzer water. And because I'm a big fan, particularly, I just want to be normal. I want to be authentic. I want to, that's how I want to be. And that's my goal with my clients, is to help them be the same and do the same in their lives. And certainly as a coach, I don't want to create this, like, I'm the coach, you're the client thing. And it happens like just kind of an automatic. And so I'm always just working to make sure that it's just a couple of people just shooting the breeze, talking, two people together for the benefit of one. And so how do you need to show up? Just your authentic self. You don't got it all together. You may have your physical life all set, your relations you're on and top of, but the truth is you're sneaking a little bit of angel food cake at the end of the day. Whatever you got, we all got our things that we're working out. It's like, how can you be human and normal with your people you're working with? Again, fellow traveler. And that, I think, first comes from a degree of self-knowledge and self-respect, being okay with yourself, being cool with yourself. That then you can be cool with other people and their stuff. So a couple more thoughts and then we'll open the floor. Keep an eye on little secrets, subtle agendas, or sort of like a mystique kind of thing that we can create. Like, one of these days you'll see I don't know, just give them the whole damn picture. It's going to be hard, or sometimes it's easy, or sometimes it's this and that. And, this is how we're going to be doing things together. it's not like you're the Buddha and you got it all and you'll experience enlightenment when. No, it's not. It just isn't that. And I'm not saying that I don't know any of you well enough to say that you would do this, but I know from my own human experience, if we don't manage it, it's easy to begin to think that we're kind of special. We are special, but so is everybody else. So, be with them. And just, be with them, and you're creating an experience together. Conspire with your clients. That's the jargon I like to use. Our job is to help create a conscious experience of the client with themselves and us in relationship with them. To that end, it's a simple, repetitive process of application of self, capital S self, best self. Oh, all right. Go get bumped. We'll wait for you, buddy. We'll keep going. It's a repetitive process of application of your best self to every area, or their client's best self to every area of their life. This is all we're doing again and again. How do I help my client connect to themselves and apply it to this part of their life or that part of their life again and again and again? That's all we're doing. All right. This is one of the fun things I like teaching people is normal people talk. We got to kill the jargon. It's cool when we're all together and we've got jargon and shorthand, but oh baby, you want to distance yourself from somebody you're trying to work with. Start that coachy jargon talk. And I learned this. I was asked to do some teaching in Poland, and the folks in Poland, like lots of people in other parts of the world, they speak English better than we speak any other second language, and sometimes better than we speak English, by the way. But the guy warned me. He said, you can't speak in idioms. And I never really thought about that. I speak in metaphor, idioms all the time, but it made me slow down and realize, oh, wait, I got to connect to these people. I can't be, well, that's the pot calling the kettle black. Well, that's not very useful. And so we've got to watch jargon. We've got to watch things that we know in other communities that we're in that just roll off our tongue. We've got to slow down and do the very best we can to meet the person that we're actually talking to right where they are. Their energy, their vibe. Doesn't mean if they're kind of really in a low vibe and they're just really sad about things and we go down there. No. But we don't want to be like, super jacked when they're just like excited to be doing some coaching with you. It's like, by the way, that was my problem. I did this like Tony Robbins thing. I didn't know you could be a good coach and be Ron. I thought you had to be like, something that was already cool and acceptable. So anyway, it took me a long, it was a long road, but yeah, you don't have to be anybody else. You just be your thing, drop the jargon, and meet with them in normal people talk. And so our job is to do a lot of the translation of a lot of these tools that we have into normal people language. Couple more things. Do you want to do actual coaching in an initial session, or is it just basically a download of information and a getting of resources, values, goals, that type of thing? Do you want to do actual coaching, or is that just what that session is for? Do you like doing it in person, Zoom, phone? You have lots of options these days. Where are you most powerful? Now, you might do everything. If you're at the gym, you're going to do things over the phone. Great. If you're going to do Zoom, fantastic. But you want to make sure you're situating yourself not as the rare few times where you're going to hear me say this, not what's best for the client, but what's best for the coach. For me, I'm a big fan of the phone. I don't do Zoom. Now, if Nick, you're going to call me someday, hey, Ron, can we do some coaching? Yeah, okay, great. I have no problem. In fact, a client from Poland, we would get together for 5 minutes and just look at each other, see what we look like first thing, and shoot the breeze on Zoom, hang up or disconnect, and then call me because I can do my best work over the phone. So you want to do the kind of work that works for you. And one little more wrinkle. I used to be a triathlete, and somebody gave me this idea of, Ron, you should coach people, triathletes who actually during triathlon. And I thought that was crazy. Now, I never did it before, but why not? If I'm in good enough shape, boy, we can jog along, we can ride along and talk. And I know people who literally move in with their clients for a weekend. I know coaches that will follow them around on, say, Thursday, Friday at work in the board meetings and the whole thing, and then go home with them for a few days and do a huge deep dive. It's not up my alley, but And again, you can just fly out. People have fly out and they spend the day with me. That's what I do. But again, you could do this over the phone. You could do anything you want. But I want you to really expand your idea of what you could do to really connect with people. Okay, huge overview, a little bit longer. I riffed a little longer than I had intended, but how y'all doing? What's on your mind? What do you want to comment on or begin our questions about?
Can I jump in and do some framing for my team real quick?
Please.
And forgive me, Carrie, there's a lot of people here, and you understand a lot of these terms. So guys, I wrote this in Slack, but Ron has bandied about a lot of terms that trained coaches all would understand. And they sound like regular words, but in coaching context, they're capitalized and have specific contextual meaning. And so if any of those come up for you, just note them and we'll talk about them in our next hour. I've been taking notes on ones that I think are coming up. And but things like discovery session, I know you guys know that we use that our initial client conversation is called discovery sessions. Basically, discovery sessions are your first meeting with your client. And in our model at Alter, we're doing some discovery sessions initially where we're transferring information to you based on our prescription. And your first meeting with your client is still your first meeting with your client, right? Where you're going to get to know them and you're going to get to show up in a certain way and you're going to get to establish a rapport with them. And that's going to be every single time you've got a new client, you're going to go through that discovery process. And so just kind of think through when Ron is talking about that's kind of the framing, I think, for us at work. So that's what I got for you.
I'm glad you do that, Nick. I'm smiling at myself going, oh, I'm throwing jargon around to people who might not know some of the jargon. So yeah. Feel free, everybody. Like, what did I say? So open it up to everything. What did I say that you want to like high five and yeah, more of that? What did I say that you're like, what was that word you kept using? What does that mean? So throw it all out there and let's push it around.
Can I ask a question? You gave a beautiful definition of designed alliance, just a sort of, and I lost it while I was listening to you say something else. What was it?
It'll be available on the recording. I have no idea what I said, but it's really, you know what I might have said that you took was 2 or more people coming together for the benefit of one. I mean, that to me is ultimately, that's what we're doing is we're consciously deciding how we're going to work together in a way that would have that be the case, where 2 people do come together, where it's an obvious, there's one person it's designed to benefit. Now, what's actually happening in that conversation is, hey, and by the way, do you like Alex or Alexandra?
Alexandra would be great if you don't mind.
Alexandra's great. No, that's okay. I thought Nick had said Alex before, so I didn't know. I might have misheard. So Alexandra, if you and I started working together, I'd say, great. So I would tell you some things in terms of the way they're just going to be, right? I ask lots of questions. I'm going to articulate and just name or just say what I see. It could be awkward stuff. It could be something that seems sort of out of left field or weird. And it's never about me being right. It's more about me just being an observer and you having something to push off of, like, oh my gosh, you're right, Ron, I am feeling anxious. Or no, Ron, I'm not anxious at all. I'm more confused. I just don't know what to do. And so the idea is always about you getting clear about your experience, what's going on, what you want. And does that make sense? Yes. And so there'd be a lot of back and forth that way. I might say, we're going to meet together 3 times a month. What do you need? Are you more of a morning person or are you into the evenings, right? So we're designing how we're going to work together logistically like that. Hey, I tend to intrude. Now, I'm not going to jump on top of every time you're talking, but is it okay if I cut you off sometimes if you begin to tell a story, say a lot. And what I just want from you is like the essence so that we can get on to helping you create what you want. And what I want in that moment is for my client to go, oh yeah, that makes sense as to why you might intrude on me, and to consciously grant me permission to do that. Right. So it's no longer, otherwise we were stuck in the realm of more of it just being a polite conversation, which means as your coach, I'm just supposed to listen to you, which is not what we're here to do. Right.
So setting the terms for engagement, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if we can keep talking about more things in fact, I'll open a document that I use, in which I cover a whole bunch of things, and I can name a few more things for all y'all. But at the end of the day, what we all want to be thinking about is, what is it we want to express? What is it we need to have agreement on, that by the time you do show up for our first regular session, that we're going after your goals, we've got a strong relationship that we can lean into to do the work. Where I could say, Alexandra, you're killing me. You're lying to yourself. You're trying to pull it over on me. You have done that before. No, you can't have it both ways. You can't have, victim and, you're a big, strong, powerful woman. You got to choose one way or the other. Oh my gosh. Could you say that to somebody? Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, I'm underwriting her mediocrity. I'm underwriting her story. I'm underwriting her BS, her demons, her saboteurs, her scams, right? Does that make, and actually I want to check in with everybody right now. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And if it doesn't, let's pause for a second. So thanks, Aaron's giving me the yes. How about others? Can I have nodding heads or high fives? Cool.
Does everyone understand the term saboteur? You get that? Okay. It's a big
saboteur,
one.
I call it a scammer.
I do not understand it.
So Nate, it's that voice in your head that tells you that you can't do this. You might as well have another piece of chocolate cake. You know what? Screw that. You had a bad day, didn't you?
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I deserve. Yeah. And one of the things we'll want to do is include that in your initial discovery, whatever you guys call it. You want to include that in your initial session, because there's two things at play here in our lives, as grossly speaking, right? There's the best part of ourselves that we're working to help our clients more quickly access at a deeper level. And there's this other part of ourselves, if we call it that, or, if someone's a religionist of one kind or another, it would be a demon or Satan or whatever. And you don't have to be a religionist to kind of hold it outside of yourself that way, but there's essentially two ways to look at it. It comes from within, it comes from your training. Your mom told you, careful, honey, be careful, honey, be careful. And so now you're 40 years old and you're still being careful. It's like, you're not at choice. That's just a saboteur. That's just a programming that just keeps coming up. You actually don't have to be careful crossing the road anymore. You're 50. Or it could, and I do think this is true too. It's something that is just like the universe has various laws that you can't, that are binding and you can't avoid. There is something built into the fabric of the universe that, or our very constitution, the universal constitution, that there's dark and there's light, but there's unity at its whole. How do those things play together? Well, here's this voice telling me to have more chocolate cake. Well, guess what? I just gave my word that I wasn't eating dessert tonight. I probably shouldn't be listening to that voice. Do I sometimes deserve or need to break out and relax and have some chocolate cake, or however that manifests in my, I do. But not right after a good workout, or not right after I said I wasn't going to. And so how do we put that voice in check and put it in its proper place so I can have unity, choice, right? All right. Let me pull up that document. What other questions we have? Oh,
I have another one if no one else does.
Yeah, hit me.
You said you're talking about how do you need to show up in your discovery sessions.
Yep.
And then talking about the authentic and being a human and all of that. Is there any reason that you would show up differently depending on your client, like showing up for people in a different way? Or is the goal to maintain your sort of, this is who I am and whoever I need to connect with will show up? Or are there adjustments that happen in that space?
You are, here's some jargon, you are saying something that is a great topic to bring into our conversation, which is really about range. It's about authenticity, but it's about range of an individual. As a man, I want to be able to have range to be with a friend if he's crying, sad, or even just contemplative. And that I'm a pretty jacked up and energetic guy. But I've got to be able to downshift and be with somebody. I also want to be with somebody when, Nick calls and like, Ron, you won't believe it. I just did this cool thing. I want to be like, hell yeah, you son of a gun. Like that is all. Like, so there's a range, isn't it? Now it's all got to be authentic, because if it's stilted or played, then people feel like it's gross. We've all been with people in situations where it feels gross. It feels sticky. It feels stilted. So we're not ever talking about inauthenticity. We're just talking about the range of you as an individual. Do you have the capacity? Can you laugh and smile? And do you have access to that? Or are you, so, and I use the term loosely, traumatized by stuff that's happened in your past that, you're cool, you're whatever. It's like, yeah, that's cool. But guess what? When your clients need to be able to like, I did it. I did this goal. I did this thing. And you're like, cool, that's good. If you can't go there, then what happens is I learned, oh, it's not safe to be with Nick. That I can't be that big because Nick can't actually hold that joy. Right. And if Nick comes in like jacked, like, hey, I just asked my wife, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, all in, we are going to travel. And I'm like really excited like this. And he's like, hell yeah. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He got so big. It's like, and again, I'm being a little over the top to make the point, but if he is so big, there's no space for me to have my own authentic expression. So what we're really talking about is authenticity, meeting your client, being with them, drawing out their best. So now to answer your question proper, how do I show up? I show up like Ron, ready to go, neutral. On this kind of call, I'm psyched, I'm energetic, I've got a lot to say, I want to share and all that jazz. If you've ever watched any of my other videos, there's been other times where things get mellow and I've got to be able to read the energy, be in the space and chill out and be with that. And so I would say your baseline, I hope, is at some degree, energetic mellow, or energetic grounded probably is a better language, so that you can dance, can move with whatever's there and do your work as an individual to get that range, to be able to be with people wherever they are. I know there's a lot there, but
I have a question piggybacking on that.
Sure.
So what are some like probing questions that will give you insight into how they are doing? I know this might seem obvious, but like I kind of coached for a little while, like a long time ago. And like a rule that I had was like, always ask 3 questions deep. So like if they give you the first question, great, why again? And then like that would kind of, I'm in sales too. So I like do that in sales as well, just to kind of like dig a little bit deeper to really find out like why somebody's here. So yeah, I'm curious like what questions you ask that really give you insight into somebody and how they're doing.
letting the dog outside. So I'm going to reorient you a bit, and I'm less concerned about 3 questions deep. And by the way, if any of y'all have been in sales, awesome. Any consultants out there, awesome. It's a blessing and a curse for everybody, because you've got tons of skills that if I were to work with you one-on-one, I would reorient, I would reallocate some of your resources, so to speak. And that's, your question is going to help you do that. Because you've got all those skills. We're just, how do you deploy them most effectively is ultimately our question. So we're not looking to go 3 questions deep we're looking to ask a question we do 3 things as coaches. And I'm going to repeat this on probably every single call I do for the rest of my life, because it just bears repeating over and over. Just like who we are drives what we do creates our results. Who we are drives what we do creates our results. We do 3 things as coaches. We get clear agendas. We know what people want. I always use my pen as the example. It's like, that's the thing. Now we're not going to get lost. There we are. We connect clients to themselves. We create alignment, integrity. We help them align their thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, how they're moving their body to an experience of power, of joy, of grace, of ease, whatever it is that they're wanting to, whoever they're wanting to be, however they're wanting to show up more. And then you take those qualities and then you look back over the thing they started with. I cannot work out 3 days a week. I'm too busy on this, on that. What do you see here? What are the qualities? What is the man you see right here? Whiny, cranky, disabled, victimy. Like those qualities create a menu of options that I will choose from and do things to create a result. I don't like the results, do I? No. So the name of the game for you is to help me, one, get conscious of that. Two, I'm going to answer your question. This is the foundation. The second thing, though, is I'm going to help my client connect to the richer, deeper part of themselves. Hey, Ron, what is important about being able to do this or create this result? So the question is not about 3 deep. It's about asking great questions that connect me right to me. Connect right to me. What's important about that? Ron, if you did weigh, I'm a thin guy, I don't need to lose weight, but hey, Ron, if you did weigh 200 pounds, what would that be like? Right? So it's how you ask the question. Because if it's Ron, if you weigh 200 pounds, what would that be like? You're going to get one answer, and it's going to be sterile, and you're not going to get any of this connection to me. You're going to get my answers, but you're not going to get my heart. Hey, Ron, so that's why you got to be with me. You got to care. You got to give it, pardon me, you got to give a damn. Hey, Ron, tell me about Renaud, 200 pounds, which is what I weigh, but you don't want to see Ron at 180. This is not going to be good. Ron, what would you like to add 10 more pounds? We're going to lose you, kid. All right. So Ron, what would that be like? And then it's like, oh, I would feel like a new man. Now we have some shift happening. What's happening over there, Ron? Boy, you look happy. I'm feeling really good. Yeah. What's going on inside of you right now? We're starting to flesh out that experience we talked about, right? Now we're getting into the heart of coaching, by the way. Right? So we don't need 3 questions, because where do 3 questions get us? Who knows? We're asking all sorts of articulating, noticing, right? Hey, Ron, boy, when you started laughing about, when you started smiling about, how great it would be, I got excited. What's going on inside of you? Right now, you're using yourself as an instrument to help me get more conscious of my experience. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the kinds of questions we're asking is, what's possible if? What would that be like? What's great about? If it were perfect, what would you do? So these are all questions that assume this person is an amazing human being that you're just drawing out their best from. And by the way, I didn't say that in my little lecturette, but that has got to be your foundational come from, is people are effing amazing. Everyone. Even that total pud over at the bagel bar that you go to once a week. Yeah, because you don't know what's going on with that dude. And that one smile, that one note, that whatever you hit him with after 3 or 4 or 5 weeks could just be it. Because he has people barking at him all day long, and one person actually isn't buying it and cares enough to see him at his best. And that's our job, is to see people who are there at their best. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah. But we're going here, friend. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I feel like when people are kind of closed off to answering questions, if you start sharing something about yourself that's a little bit more vulnerable, or something that helps them relate to you, then they're a lot more inclined to share afterwards.
Great point. We want to be so that I want to say, there's a yes and kind of quality to that. So yes, share your own experience. But what can happen is, and this is the danger for us as coaches, is we can end up teaching and talking and filling the space, when what we're wanting to do, if we're going to create that transformation, is draw from them. Sarah, you brought up about sales before, is I really refer to this as we're selling clients on themselves. And so and how do you say your name? Is it Teo? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Teo, great. Thank you, brother. So if I were, if I was coaching you, I might say, oh man, I had the same thing when I first started doing that. And it's not easy, is it? And you go like, no. And that's all, that's it. What do you know that you need to do to handle this? So you just handle it. Now it's like, there's a way that we came together, 2 individuals with a common understanding, common experience. But meanwhile, I was able to solve it. But what do you know you need to do in order to do this? And if I knew that I was going to see you again tomorrow or next month and the month after, and we could keep this going. I know you got Nick, actually. So let me just say this is a good conversation to continue on, because you want to share, you want to be able to have access to and use your experience, but it is such a slippery slope, because what can happen is if I started doing this, because guess what, guys, I've been coaching for 25 or so years. If I started telling you about that and telling you about all the things I've seen and done and everything else, at some point you would tune out, because you don't really want to hear about all Ron's experience and all the things I've done, all the dragons I've slayed. What you want to feel is at some level, and I am on this experience with you as being a better and more masterful coach. And so I can drop in with an experience of things that I've done and overcome. And I'll also tell you a couple of stories about how I dropped the ball and still trying to figure that one out. And so how do you do that as a coach where you can connect, but it doesn't become about you? Great line to play with. And great thing to debrief in your group that you guys have is I shared, and this guy totally lit up when I did this thing. But the other day I did it, and I did like 3 times in an hour, and I could see him shutting down because I was, great. So what are you learning? And that becomes a great conversation to have in your own mind as well as, with your team. Because it is potent, Teo. It's very potent. And it's almost like a shot of, I don't know, like 180 proof, or I don't know if you 150 proof. It's like, yeah, and a shot will do you. What else is out there?
I'm wondering, Ron, if we could tie into Michael's question about clean entry.
Great. I know Nick wanted to talk about that too. Okay, so I talk about clean entry with your coaching. Actually, this will be really good for you guys too. It's how you begin. I talk about clean entry, kick-ass coaching, clean exit. So your clean entry with your coaching is you need to include in there, and I'll break it down quick. We got about 10 minutes, and I want to make sure we leave like 3 minutes for everybody to just kind of motor through the bottom line, what you're walking away with. So clean entry is you want the components of it are accountability. You got to check in. Did they do what they said they were going to do last week or yesterday or what have you? You want to get a really clean agenda, not topic. What do you want to talk about, but a clean agenda. What do they really want to get from their time today? And then you want to get going on it. Most people don't get a clean agenda, and they are just kind of wandering around. That's why I talked about getting a clear agenda and then having that. So if Ron starts talking about Oreos, but we started talking about being a better son, you know, okay, Ron, so you're talking about Oreos and eating cookies. What's that have to do with being a better son? And I might be like, I have no idea how I got there, right? And then you say, okay, good, let's get back focused again. And it might be like, well, because my mom and I used to always sit down and eat cookies together, and that's when we had our best chat. It's like, oh, well, that's good information. Aren't you glad you didn't stifle that? So, hey, Ron, and as an example, you might say, great, Ron, so how do you bring that to this conversation? Now, you've got something whole here. So a clean entry, right? Accountability, clear agenda that we can tether things to. I'm a big fan of getting the clear agenda first. So, Aaron, what do you want to work on today? What do you want to get from our time? Hey, Ron, I got to work on this plan to whatever. I got to stop eating desserts. I eat desserts 7 nights a week now, man. If I can get down to 2, I'm solid. Okay, so I know what you want. Great. So let's go there in a second. First, tell me about you're going to do 20 push-ups a day. How'd that go? Right? Because I want to find out wins. I want to find out where he dropped the ball. Either way, I'm going to get him to a place, and this is obviously, Nick, this is your, with your team, this is, you're going to have to go into more detail on, and we'll talk about this stuff we can next month, and I've got videos on this, so you got resources for this. But this is where the coaching really comes in, is, if they didn't do it, okay, what happened? What did you learn? So it's learning, and what are you going to do going forward? And you're not going to just do going forward. You're going to reconnect them to what's important. Otherwise, you're just, go do it again. It's like, okay, well, that didn't work last time. It's because I wasn't sufficiently connected to myself. Given enough leverage, anybody will do anything. What's that leverage? That leverage is a true, rich connection to myself. That's how I'm going to say no to dessert tonight. That's how I'm going to get myself. I hate stretching. I effing hate stretching. I've got injuries in my shoulders, my biceps, my elbow, my knee. And guess what? I've got people I've hired and paid a lot of money to that are like, dude, until you get this other stuff handled, you're not strengthening a damn thing. So guess what? Now there's leverage. And so all of a sudden I've gone from like 0 for 7 to like I'm 7 for 7 and occasionally 6 for 7 because I got leverage because somebody has finally been able to unlock that connection to me and what's important. So I didn't do my push-ups. Great, Ron. What happened? What do you learn? What do you now know? What's important to you? What do you need to do going forward? What are you committed to? What will be different this week, right? We're asking questions that help me reconnect to what's important. And I'm a big fan of, by the way, on these little things, which is nothing little in the bigger sense, but 20 push-ups. How long does it take to do 20 push-ups? 30 seconds. If I'm really in rough shape, 40, 50, 2 minutes if I've got to take a break. So, all right, Teo, be good, brother. We're losing our man here. So worst case scenario, hey, Nick, jump down, give me 20 right now. Well, you see, I just ate it. Shut up. Just do 20 push-ups. You're killing me. And guess what's going to happen? Now we can debrief. How was that? Oh my gosh, it wasn't that bad. No. But you try to give me a BS excuse that you just ate. Like, you're killing me with that. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. So good. Your demons showed up and we crushed them. You didn't think you could do it. You did it. What do you now know? What kind of man is here? Who's here now? Right now, all of a sudden, we've got that to work with. If they did do their homework, great. What did you learn? What kind of man? Who the ball? Right? You're building it, and you can take that juju into the homework, which I forgot what it was, or what the agenda was, is to only have dessert twice a week. Right now, you can take that energy. You've already got some momentum into the main agenda. Okay. That's clean entry. There's a lot more to be said, but that's the shortcut version. Any thoughts about clean entry? Questions? There's so much to unpack. Really, we need to have like 6 more hours, obviously, for the newer coaches here. But yeah, the idea is that, and kick-ass coaching is basically more of the same. It's, we're like, okay, go do the thing. It's like, no. Ron doesn't like stretching. I've been a triathlete. I've run 100 miles. I've done ultra everything. I don't like stretching. You can't just say, go for it, dude. Hey, you've run 100 miles. Can't you just stretch? It's like, no, that doesn't work. So what do you need to do? You need to create that connection to get the guy or the gal to do the thing. And that's where the most work for us as coaches is to get really good at connecting people to themselves. That's the gold right there. We're about at that time. Aaron, you're on mute, but it looks like you're about to say something.
No, I just went, oh yeah. I'm very engaged. I'm looking forward to the next hour. So great. This has been very, very insightful.
The big takeaway for me is it's in my own business. I'm in real estate. So as I'm becoming a coach, there's a lot of things that actually translate, and it's about relationship. And if we don't show up as our authentic self, that client came to me because they want to work with me.
Yeah.
And when I work with other agents, when I mentor other agents, it's something I remind them all the time. It's like they want to be like that realtor or that realtor or that real. No, don't be like them. Being a realtor is really fucking easy. It's not hard. What is hard is being your authentic self and creating a safe space for that client so they can trust you, build that trust right away because it's a multi-million-dollar transaction. All of these things relate to being a good coach and creating that awesome relationship so they can be vulnerable. So when you said that, it's just really hit me. It's like, it's really the same type of concept.
So I'm going to interrupt you. See how you interrupt? You don't have to be elegant, everybody. You just go to it. What's the essence, my brother? The essence of what you're taking away then today?
It's not that hard.
We'll take it. Good. I'm going to go around the horn as it is on my computer. Christian, what do you got today? What's your takeaway, my friend?
Connecting with people in different ways and being your authentic self.
Yeah, great, man. How about you, Dan?
The inflection you use really allows someone to either be excited or meet them kind of whatever mood they're at.
Yeah. Use your vibe. I was a little over the top with the excitement or the super mellow, but we can see that if we create too much of a gap between us and them, we're not going to get that transformation. People just won't feel safe to be in that transformative space with us. Good call, Dan. Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, what I liked a lot about what you said was everybody's amazing. You just have to help somebody realize that again. And then what coaching is just connecting people back to themselves in all areas of life. I was like, great. I love that.
Keep it simple. And we have to, even the person that, because you're going to get people who they're worth 150 million, they're close to their creator or their concept of spirit or whatever, their personal growth work is in order, they've got a great relationship, and you're like, how can I coach? Guess what? Because they might be 10 out of 10 out of 10 to get where they are, but for them to get to the next level, they're going to have to be even more connected, even better. So it's never like, don't ever be intimidated by somebody. If they have a want, you've got a job, so to speak. Good. Nate, what do you got, my friend?
I'm just kind of taking away, listen to everybody. I don't have any specific questions.
It's all good, my friend. Thanks. Nick.
Mute. As a practicing coach, the importance of clean entry is always a good reminder, because sometimes you just get in a conversation with a client and you just start going, and then 15 minutes in, you're like, what are we talking about?
How did I get here?
And so
that's right.
Yeah. So it's always a good reminder. You got to set the agenda at the beginning.
Good. All right, Zach, we got chainsaws going. We got to shut down. Zach, what do you got, my friend?
I took away that interrupting piece. I'm gonna try to implement it in a lot.
That's great. That's great. Design that in your initial conversation. Like, is it okay if I intrude on you if I need you to get to the essence rather than the story? One of the things I'll say to people is, you know the story oftentimes. Sometimes people think out loud, by the way. I'm a big think out loud guy. Sometimes people think out loud, but sometimes you're just telling a story and you don't need to hear it because you know it. And I don't need to hear it just to get to the essence so I can help you get where you want to go. And they're going to go, oh yeah, is it okay? Do I have permission to intrude on you or interrupt you sometimes? And once you've got that permission, exercise it. Good one.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so that's something I really like that, because like oftentimes we'll spend a lot of time with clients. We only have an hour similar to a coaching session. You only have a certain amount of time, and the client's going to go rambling on, and to tail onto what you said, you already know the story because you deal with this all day. So most likely that story they're telling you about what their problem with food or their exercise, you had already known it. So then you're suggesting to let them know in advance that you may to ask to interrupt them or just interrupt them.
In an initial conversation, when I sit down and say, peace, Michael, and guys, we're going a couple minutes over. I certainly understand if you've got to bail. I like to end at the top of the hour, and we're like a couple minutes over, so we'll wrap this thing up. Nate, I'm suggesting in an initial conversation, when someone sits down and says, yeah, Nate, I'm looking forward, we're going to do some coaching together, great, and you begin to design your relationship consciously, how you're going to work together. This is a good thing to add in there, design in there, so that they know that it's coming. And then you might even, the first couple times, you might even say, hey, Aaron, Aaron, I'm sorry, hold on. This is one of those times where I'm going to interrupt. Is it okay if I do that? Yeah. And now he knows, like, oh yeah. And don't worry about it being pretty. You can, sometimes if something's really going on, I go like, hold on a second, you're killing me. Like, you can be silly. You can just go like, wait, hold on 1 second. I think you just said something a minute ago. Say more about that. So you can actually pause them and redirect. There's ways to do it that work.
Got it.
Cool.
That's helpful. Thank you.
All right. With people leaving it, the screen got all jogged around. Kara, what you got?
I recognize some things that I really want to add into my discovery calls, like emphasizing saboteur and scammer a bit more. And I also have to hop into another meeting, so I have to run.
All right, you go. It's been great seeing. Did I forget anybody? Alexandra.
Oh, I think just the same thing a few people did, the connecting the client to themselves and then applying it over and over and over again.
That's all we're doing. Yeah, that's all we're doing. And I did another video. I'll let you all go. I did another video where I talked about this and used the metaphor of a little boy or a little girl running behind mama's skirt and getting re-encouraged and going back out into the world. That's all we're doing again and again, is helping clients feel comfortable with this new part of themselves they're exercising again and again. And it's a process, and shift happens in an instant, but sometimes that instant takes a little while. So that's why we're here. All right, everybody. I kept you a couple minutes over. I do so great to have you all on. And yeah, you're very welcome. And hope to see y'all next month. We'll get an email out to you and see you soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.